Good morning, and welcome to Science of Mind and Spirit teaching series, conversation series. I'm Barbara Jean Schreiner Trudell, founder and spiritual director of the Universal Joy Center in Toronto, Canada, and my pronouns are she, they. Well, there's a team of us, and every Saturday morning we join you here on the New Thought Media Network to share the science of mind, the principles, the practice, and more than anything else, how to apply those principles in your life today. So if you're watching live, I'd love it if you would put a greeting in the chat. And I can, you can ask questions, whatever you like, and we will do our best to get to them. Oh my goodness. Looks like spring is coming, but not fast enough for me. Well, throughout today's show, feel free to write questions or make comments in the chat, and I'll fold them into the process. So how does this program work? Well, from January to July, we go through the Science Mind textbook chapter by chapter. And then in the last remaining months, we explore the articles and resources in the Science Mind Library and Archives, which is available 24/7 to help us go even deeper. We can read more of Ernest Holmes' writings and other resources related to Science Mind specifically. There are so many resources that we refer to, and you can find all of them in the archives at scienceofmindarchives.com. So today, our topic comes from The Science of Mind, Chapter 8, The Power of Thought. So a little synopsis of this: thought is creative, not sometimes, not accidentally, always. And in this chapter, Holmes teaches that thought is not merely something we have, it is something that acts. It impresses itself upon the universal mind, which then responds by forming conditions, experiences, and outcomes. We're not victims in our lives. We are participants in a lawful, creative process. So the key ideas for this morning: thought is a creative force. The universe responds to the nature of our thinking. Repeated thought becomes belief, and belief becomes experience. You caught that right? Belief becomes experience. Not what we're wishing and wanting and hoping for. Belief, what we believe. Belief becomes experience. We can consciously choose thought patterns that align with truth, wholeness, and possibility. In short, we're always using the power of thought. So this class teaches us how to use it on purpose. So I'm so glad to be here with you. And today we're exploring something incredibly powerful, something we use every day, often without even realizing it. And that is thought. Ernest Holmes tells us something very direct in this chapter. Thought is creative, not hopeful, not symbolic, creative. That means our thoughts are not just passing through our minds, they are doing something. Yeah. So let me just share with you the opening paragraph in here. He says, it has taken humanity thousands of years to learn that it has the power to control its own destiny. From the Bible, we have the assurance, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. The old Greek philosophers understood something of the meaning of thought. What we expect, said Aristotle, that we find. What we wish, that we believe, said Demosthenes. And Shakespeare is accredited with saying, there's nothing good or bad, but thinking makes it so. It is one thing to know a principle, it's another to apply it. So thought imprints itself on mind. Holmes teaches that there is this universal mind, an intelligence that receives the impress of our thoughts. You can think of it like this: a footprint in wet sand. The sand doesn't decide what the shape to take. It simply receives the impression, and the universe responds the same way. So whatever our pattern of thinking is, we are in fact imprinting that on mind. And as a result, our life, our world, all of that is going to show up according to those ideas and values. Now, one thought is not a big deal. I'm driving down the road and I go, whoa, no, what am, one thought is not a big deal. But repeated thought becomes belief. And belief is powerful because it feels true, even if it isn't. Okay. The modern commercial word accepts the slogan, he can who thinks he can. Throughout the ages, many persons have realized true, the thousands of unhappy beings would indicate that a comparatively small number have used this knowledge for their benefit. Yet the day for incredulous skepticism or shallow criticism of the power of thought has passed. So we're in a time and a place where we can now begin to look at the world in a different way, recognizing and realizing thought is creative. For me, that means I have to really pay attention to what I'm thinking about. If I'm thinking about what's happening around the world, if I think about how the prices have gone up so high, if I think about the challenges facing Americans today, I put myself kind of in a pit. But if I look at all of those things that are going on, and with compassion, kindness, respect, with a sense of inspiration, I can connect to my source, spirit, and begin to work with that energy, with the capacity that I have for love, compassion, peace, and well-being. What I'm doing is I'm raising the collective vibration. So my thoughts not only impact my life, they impact life because we're all one. He goes on in this chapter to talk about the basis of mental healing. Much in this field is as yet obscure and imperfectly understood, for the scientific study of mind is still in its infancy. But the fact that a misuse of mental and spiritual laws is at the root of many unhappy conditions incident to the physical life stands out clear and sharp. The first principle fundamental to the understanding of the operation of thought is that we are surrounded by an infinite intelligence. So just think about the word infinite. See, most of us, when we get a big idea, we'll sit back and go, well, that would be hard. That's not possible. I don't know how to do that. You with me? Any of you ever thought that somehow, some way, things were happening that you couldn't quite understand why they were happening? Well, we want to really pay attention to what we're thinking about, how we're thinking, that sort of thing, so that we can turn around and begin to change how we show up in the world. He goes on to say, we comprehend the meaning of infinite intelligence only in a small degree. But because we are spiritual beings, we do sense the presence of an intelligence which is beyond human comprehension. An intelligence which is great enough to encompass the past, to understand the future, or the present, excuse me, and to be the father of the future. It is the cause of everything. All right. Thought is the cause of everything. Not some things, not one things, not two things, everything. What you're thinking about is creating the life that you're living. And if you don't like what's going on, it's time to take a breath and take a pause, go into your heart space, and just ask yourself some questions. What's going on here? Why am I doing this? The other thing that he talks about is the fact that it is important to, really look at how it happens. And one of the key ideas is that we don't attract, we express. So this is important. We often hear you attract what you think. Holmes goes deeper. You don't just attract life, you create it through the patterns you accept as true. Life mirrors consciousness. Life mirrors consciousness. So just think about a gardener. We're coming up to spring someday. The gardener doesn't plant a seed and then dig it up every day to check on it. They plant, they trust, they tend. Your thoughts are seeds. The law is the soil. The harvest is inevitable. Inevitable. So the universe always says yes to us. So what is it saying yes to? Have you ever caught yourself when you broken your favorite dish and you're, you idiot, or I'm such an idiot? I don't know about you, but I know in the past I did that more than once, probably. That is an ingrained thought that will produce. So we want to take a look at some of those things that we're doing and ensure that we're changing our mind about them so that we're not using that same language over and over again, creating a belief system that is going to carry us into the ditch. That's where it will go. All right. The next section in this chapter, the art of incarnation. At the level of our self-comprehension, we know and understand the nature of God. This self-knowing, which is God-knowing, has the possibility of an eternal expansion. As individual intelligence, we communicate with each other, are able to respond to each other. And in so doing, we establish the fact that intelligence responds to intelligence. This same law must hold true, and it must hold good whether we think of finite intelligence responding to finite intelligence or infinite intelligence responding to finite intelligence. For intelligence is the same in essence wherever we find it. We may conclude that infinite intelligence responds to us by the very necessity of being true to its own nature. So when we're, making plans and we're trying to change things and we're working on our life and we want things to maybe get better than what they are at the moment, and we might do an affirmation, maybe we're short of funds. And so we do an affirmation, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. And another bill comes in and another bill comes in. And I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich, I'm rich. Another bill comes in, another bill comes in. See, we have to be conscious of what is going on. So if we've got bills coming in and piling up and we don't have the money to pay them, ignoring those bills is not what we should be doing. We want to pay attention to them. We want to open them up. We want to look at the numbers. And then we want to do treatment to clear the block that is in our mind that is preventing us from manifesting the resources to cover all of these bills. Okay? Does that make sense? You see, a thought pattern is a repetitive thought. And those are the ones that are powerful. Those are the ones that are creative. Those are the ones that are making your life look the way it looks. And you might ask yourself, where did that thought come originally? Where did it come from? Mom, dad, sister, brother, uncle. So siblings, parents, I don't know, media, teachers, neighbors, friends. Sound about right? Yeah. So what we want to do is we want to begin to look at our thinking, pay attention to it. It might even be a cool idea to carry a small journal around or your phone. We always have that in our hand. So, and just jot down when you have a thought that you think often, just jot it down. Don't get worried about it. Don't think bad thoughts about it. Don't try to force it to go away. Just simply notice it and drop it and write it down. When you do that, you actually allow yourself to come back to that writing and look at what you wrote and then give it some thought. Do I really, truly believe this? Do I really, truly believe it? Because I may not. I might look at it and go, really? I know for me that happened quite a lot, but it depends on how we were raised and what we were taught and all that kind of good stuff. So there's so much that goes into this, but we have to get to a place of believing. Until we believe we are one with spirit, we will continue to act like victims. It is what it is. All right. Infinite mind then imparts itself. This is the bottom of that section on the art of incarnation. Infinite mind then imparts itself to the finite through the act of incarnation. The progress of the human race is a result of that process whereby intelligence passes by successive degrees of incarnation through evolution into the human mind. He goes on to write about the activity of the one mind. You see, that's the thing. There is one thing going on. We live, move, and have our being in it, not separate from, different than, in it. Okay? So he says we are living in an intelligent universe which responds to our mental states. To the extent that we learn to control these mental states, we shall automatically control our environment. Like, that is some good news, I would think. What do you think? A little bit of good news? You see, the thinking that's going on in my mind, I can change that. I have the ability to change it. So why wouldn't I? I know. That familiar thought, right? So he goes on to say that to the extent that we learn to control these mental states, we shall automatically control our environment. This is why we are studying the power of thought as we approach the subject of spiritual mind healing, which is what we do here. Pardon me. This next section is activity of the one mind. And in the great universal mind, man is a center of intelligence. And every time he thinks, he sets mind in action. Because of the oneness of mind, it cannot know anything outside of itself. Therefore, cannot contradict anything given it. This is really important. You ever heard anybody say, like, why didn't God fix that? Why does God let this happen? Anybody? I think maybe. Okay, so here's the thing. The only thing it can do is respond to what it's given. It's a little bit like your computer. If you put in a virus, you just trash your computer. Now, you might want to go back and say, well, why would the virus do that? The bigger question is, why did you put it in your computer? Why didn't you buy some, bit defender or something to block that so nothing could come in and wreck your stuff? See, the thing is that we have a lot of responsibility in what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're thinking. And when we come to understand that there is only one thing going on, of which we are part of, and the attributes of it are, in fact, our attributes as well, why are we playing small? Why are we limiting our experience, our expression? It's time to step up, step out, and shine. So in the next section, it is done unto us. We need not coerce, we need not create the power, we must let this great power operate through us. So this comes to, paying attention to that still small voice, paying attention to thoughts that just kind of pop in. What is this about? Phone so-and-so, or a new idea comes in. Allow yourself to sit with those ideas and see where they take you. He says the mind is acted upon by our thought, and in this way, thought becomes the law of our lives. It is just as much a law in our individual lives as God's thought is in the larger life of the universe. We do not create power of the mind, which creates for us. We do not create. We use the power of the one mind, which creates for us. So how does it create for us? How does it know? How does it know what I want as compared to what you might want? A desire or new career, whatever. We are one. We are one. We cannot be separate from it at any point ever. Regardless of what we're feeling, we are not separate from our source. We are one. And it is in that oneness, and because, as I said in the previous section, the universe cannot make decisions. It simply moves. It's like electricity. Electricity just follows the path it's given. Or gravity. If I drop something, it's going to fall to the center of the earth. Law of gravity. And no matter how many times I wish it doesn't do that, it's still going to do that. Everything when it comes to the laws of the universe, they're very exact. It's not punishment when we get something wrong. Well, we might punish ourselves, but the universe does not punish. The universe doesn't, go, oh, you had wine on Saturday night. That's it. You're a sinner. And by the way, sin means to miss the mark. I've done it a lot. I'm not sure about you, but I've missed the mark a few times. So what we're trying to do is understand that it is our belief system that is creating the life we're living. And if we're not happy with the life we're living, we might want to really check in and start to create a new set of beliefs. Law of life is a law of thought, an activity of consciousness. This is on page 141. The spirit can do for us only what it can do through us. Unless we are able to provide the consciousness, it cannot make the gift. The power behind all things is without limit. You got that right? The power behind all things is without limit. So if it's limitless, why does it feel limited? I believe our thinking makes it so. So it must become operative through our own thought. We shall see that what we need is not some greater power, but a greater consciousness, a deeper realization of life, a more sublime concept of being, a more intimate concept of an already indwelling spirit, who is personal to us by virtue of being personified through us. Ooh, nice. So this journey that we're all on, trying to find our way in this thing called life, and, sometimes it's challenging, isn't it? We look at the world today and we see disruption, we see war, we see people's rights being trampled upon. We see racism and disease, and well, I could throw my hands up in the air and go, oh, what's the sense? Is this as good as it gets? Here's the thing. We created that. Not one of us, the collective. The collective consciousness of humanity has created the world we currently live in. Yes. The collective consciousness of humanity has created the world we live in. Now, I want you to think about how many people are out doing peace marches or whatever, how many people are doing those things, and how many people are sitting at home going, what a waste of time. You see, we have to keep our head clear. We have to keep our mind clear. We have to be focusing on the outcome we desire, not the problem at hand. See, the problem at hand has been created. We want to go back to first cause and make a change there. By changing what we believe about life and what we believe about people, we begin to change the way we interact. We change the way we talk about life. We change the way we show up in the world. Our thoughts are so important to everything in the universe. So we want to make sure that we're paying attention to what is going on within us. The next section one is thought force. Thought force is a movement of consciousness in a field of mechanical but intelligent law. The movement of consciousness upon itself creates a motion or vibration upon substance, the force of which is equal to the embodiment of the thought set in motion. For everything that happens in the objective world, there must be something in the subjective world which perfectly balances it. See, the universe is a balanced system. And we might not realize that all the time, that it is, in fact, a balanced system. So let us suppose, he writes, for illustration, that the universe is nothing but water, permeated by an infinite intelligence. Now imagine that every time this intelligence moves or thinks, ice is formed in the water, exactly according to the thought. We might have countless pieces of ice of different form, color, and size. But these pieces of ice would still be water. If we could heat the entire mass, it would melt, and all forms would again become fluid. Nothing would have changed except form. The physical universe is spirit in form. I really love this concept because when you look at ice, it appears different than water, right? It's solid. It's really cold. It just somehow seems different. But we know that when water gets cold, it becomes ice. Depending on the temperature, it could become snow, could become hail. It's still water. At the base, it is still water. So when we apply this to our personal experience, we are like the ice cube, but the ice cube is made of the water. So even though I'm in this form, I am created in spirit, in God, in this form. And it's up to me to accept it. Accept the fact that this is me. How many of us turn around and go, I don't like me. I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I think. Blah, 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 blah. Gripe, complain, gripe and complain. What if instead we went, okay, I was created by an intelligent universe. And what does that mean to me? See, there's so many questions we can ask ourselves rather than just looking at things and accepting it as at will. We need to take the time to really think about what's happening in our life on a day-to-day basis. On 142, the atmosphere of our thinking, he says we are all immersed in the atmosphere of our own thinking, which is the direct result of all we have ever said, thought, or done. This decides what is to take place in our lives. Thought attracts what is like itself and repels what is unlike. We are drawn toward those things which we mentally image. Most of the inner processes of our thought have been unconscious. But when we understand the law, we understand to consciously embody what we wish and think of this only. And then we are drawn silently toward it. See, we will have a thought, maybe money's tight. So money's tight. And so you're thinking, well, I need my rent money. I need $1,000. Wouldn't that be great if that was the rent? Whew, I'd love that. So the rent is $1,000. We only have $800. We're not getting paid for 2 more weeks, and the rent is due tomorrow. You know, in that place, we can get some anxiety and some worry and, "Oh my god, I'm gonna lose my place," and blah, 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 blah. We just spiral downwards very, very quickly. But in this idea of the water becomes ice, becomes snow, becomes hail, returns to water. If that's the case, if everything is moving in that way, creating, recreating, never ending, just always changing form, then why is it I cannot begin to attract to me prosperity in the form of money? Well, I might have a belief running that, was shared with me by my parents. Money doesn't grow on trees. Money is the root of all evil. No, that's not what the Bible said. The love of money is the root of all evil. And that I can agree with. You look around the world today and you look at the haves and the have-nots. There's not much balance there. It's like the haves have and the have-nots have not. Now, that's not a concept created by God. That is a concept created by humanity. We have decided that you are more worthy if you have the right title, the right income, and live in the right neighborhood. You are now worthy of our attention and our accolades. But is there anything real in that? I mean, think about it. What's real about that? It's nothing. You see, we have this faculty of imagination that's incredibly powerful, and we can imagine anything. We can even change old patterns by reimagining that first experience differently, and then everything changes for the rest of our lives. We really have to pay attention to the thinking that we're doing. On the bottom of 142, in the section called Inducing Thought, that which thought has done, thought can undo. Lifelong habits of wrongdoing can be consciously and deliberately neutralized, and an entirely new order of mental and emotional reaction established in mind. Merely to abstain from wrong thinking is not enough. There must be active right thinking. We must become actively constructive and happy in our thinking, not merely passively so. New and wholesome ideas of life, vitality, and hope must be accepted and incorporated into the substratum of our mental life, in that a more wholesome externalization may manifest in our bodily condition and environment. So we need to work with the universe. We're going to work with God, spirit, right? Not separate from, we're going to work with. And by doing that, we are tapping into the power that we possess, the power that was given us at our birth. We are powerful, creative, remarkable beings. And each and every one of us is valuable, unique, and special. Coming to recognize that helps us to choose our thoughts a little bit differently so that we're not in judgment and criticism all the time, but rather in a place of trying to understand people and the differences that we all have. It's really, really important. Um, Choosing thought. We cannot live a choiceless life. Every day, every moment, every second, there is choice. If it were not so, we would not be individuals. Hmm. Wow. We have the right to choose what we wish to experience. We have the right to choose the kind of companions with whom we wish to associate, the kind of city that we want to live in, the type of house we'd like to live in. We are individuals, and the only way we can be individuals is to be spontaneous. There's no such thing as a mechanistic individuality. It must have the essential element of spontaneity. There is no spontaneity and no individuality without prerogative. There can be no choice unless there is something from which to choose, right? Like we can sit back and go, well, we have a choice to be positive or negative, in our words and in our actions. We have that choice. But it doesn't always feel that way, does it? Somebody yells at you. You're like, what? What did I do? And they just keep yelling at you. Feelings come up, and you might turn around and bop them one, or you might turn around and go, well, it's my life. The journey that we're on, really, truly, is infinite, creative, intelligent, and we are an essential part of all of it. Absolutely essential. So what we have to wake up to is the fact that we are one with God, one with Spirit. Until we do that, we are going to continue to fight. We're going to continue to struggle. We're going to continue to try to figure out why God does these terrible, awful things. God does not. We do. We do those things. On page 146, under the power within, he writes, through spiritual discernment, we see that we have within us a power which is greater than anything we shall ever contact. A power that can be overcome every obstacle. Let me try that again. A power that can overcome every obstacle in our experience and set us safe, satisfied and at peace, healed and prosperous in a new light and a new life. Creative powers right here. Don't have to find it. Don't have to go out and buy it. Don't have to shop Amazon for it. It's right here. It's right here. Always has been, always will be. It's never left you, never will. So what's the big deal about that? Well, I can turn my attention inward. I can turn my intention inward. And by doing that, I actually change everything that's going on in my world. It's all shifted as a result. Okay, so we set our own limits. I mean, think about it. You want to buy a new car. What is the first thing you say? As well, I'm not working right now, so I can't really afford it. I want a new car, but I don't have the cash. I want a new car. They may not give me the credit. Do we do some of these things? Or I want to move to a house, but the housing market. I'll never find anything right now. So I get to be right because I don't find the house. You see, the words that we put into mind, the words that we think, are powerful, very powerful. He writes in the section on understanding, before we attempt to improve our conditions, before we proceed further on the subject of healing, it is necessary that we be certain of our own minds. That thought is creative. As upon this basis, our entire superstructure rests, since spirit creates by contemplation, pure mental action, then everything in the manifest world is some effect of that therapy. Wow. Wow. That's pretty cool, eh? That we find ourselves in an undesirable condition in the face of all this is merely proof that we have limited ourselves by our very freedom. You see, we were created free. We were created to create for ourselves, to do for ourselves, to find a way to love life and to love the journey and to move on from it. So it's really quite impressive when you think about it. I can change my reality by changing my thinking. Sounds pretty easy. It can be a little harder when our belief systems are so strong to actually believe that we can make the switch. He goes on to say that we find ourselves in an undesirable condition in the face of all this is merely proof that we have limited our taxes. We've limited ourselves. We've limited our journey. We've limited our freedom. We've limited ourselves completely. And that's something that we can change by opening up our thoughts, beginning to think along new lines, to change the way we view the world. But more importantly, to look at the way we view ourselves. We really need to love ourselves. He goes on to say, we have gone far in the right direction when we have determined that creation could have originated only in intelligence, and have realized further that our own mental power must be the same in kind with the creativeness of spirit. Thus, we begin to sense, even though dimly, that as our minds become more like the divine mind, we shall expand into a greater livingness. Our world created by our consciousness, and our consciousness taking its color from the perception of our relation to the infinite. So when we're looking at life and we're, you know, complaining about this, that, or the other thing, and we want to really start noticing those habits and to start to switch them so that we are not continually putting ourselves under the bus. We want to make sure that we're standing tall and proud, that we're awake and aware, that we are ready to step into a brand new life, a brand new way of being. We all have the power to do that. We all have the power to do it. But do we do it? Not often, not often. Often what happens is we start and then we change our mind and stop. So here's what I want you to remember. You are always thinking. Mhm. Therefore, you are always creating. The question is not if your thoughts have power. The question is, are you using that power consciously? Holmes invites us into responsibility, not as pressure, but as freedom. Because if thought creates, then you create new thought. That's all you have to do, create a new thought. And you can do that by using affirmations or whatever you like, but it's time to create a new thought. The oops, I was on the right page. Why did I turn it? He closes this off by saying, we should strive toward a perfect vision, a perfect conception. We should expand our thought until it realizes all good, and then cut right through all that appears to be, and use this almighty power for definite purposes. We should daily feel a deeper union with life, a greater sense of that indwelling God, the God of the seen and of the unseen within us. When we speak into this mind, we have sown a seed of thought in the absolute, and we may rest in peace. We need not make haste, for it is done unto us as we believe. In that day, they that call upon me will answer. The idea that there is a power for good in the universe and we are using it day by day, moment by moment, whether we're thinking negatively or positively, we are using the same power. I invite you today to just notice a thought. Ask yourself if you actually still believe it. And if not, change it. And you can do that through spiritual mind treatment. You can do that through um, affirmations. You want to change. All right, let's affirm together. My thoughts are powerful. I choose them with awareness. I align my thinking with truth, with possibility, and with good. I align my thinking with truth, with possibility, and with good. And life responds. Mm, 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 mm. Well, everybody, our time is completely up, and I hope you'll join us not only next Saturday and all throughout the week for other programming on the New Thought Media net. You know, I washed it yesterday. Now I can't do anything with it. Programming on the New Thought Media Network. And if this programming serves your well being, please make a donation at ntmedia.org. Just click the donate link and consider a recurring donation. Our programming relies on your generosity. We are volunteers here doing these shows. So, let's keep this network running. Let's keep the good news happening and let's keep all of this great energy moving forward. Thank you for sharing your morning with me. I'm Reverend Barbara Jean. And please like, share, and subscribe. And until next time, remember, life loves you. And I do too. See you next time. Bye for now.